was trying to contain my excitement, but this is my very first podcast. This is my first. So I feel like a low key celebrity today, but I was really trying to stay calm. But now that you've asked, I'm over here jumping out of my seat because this is really cool. So yeah, this is my first one. So I'm honored and thrilled to be here.
Welcome back to the Eyes on the Road podcast, where we help you navigate the college and career journey. This month, we've been talking more in detail about the Road to College and Career program, aka RTCC, which is an unmatched program at Uplift Education, which supports scholars and their families through the college and career decision-making process. Camille and I are so excited to continue our Through Their Eyes series today as we welcome Misti Whitley, who is one of our outstanding college and career counselors, as she shares a little bit about her story and insight into working with scholars and their families. Let's get started. So, how's the school year been for you? I think at this point we're about a month-ish in. So, yeah, overall, how's the start of the year? I know we're still living in some times. That's what I'll always describe it as. So, yeah, how you been?
I like that. I like that. We are living in some times. Yes. The school year has been interesting, to say the least. I can say that I'm really excited. I can't express this enough to be back in person. You know, at the end of the day, I'm really happy for all of us to be back in the space, doing what we love, in the capacity that we love, in the environment that we love, in the context that we love. So, you know, things are rocky. We're transitioning after being gone for almost a year and a half, I feel like. But, you know, it's just great to be finding the flow of things again, with all of us back in the space that's familiar to us and doing the work that we love in a way that makes it really possible.
Does it feel, what feels the most different between that window we returned last year of hybrid, you know, in person, some scholars, and then somewhere remote, versus this year when we said, okay, 100% in person, our scholars learn best in person, we build relationships best in person. What to you has felt the most different with that shift?
I think it's that very thing of shifting to 100%. It felt in the past like we had a gradual release of process and protocol, and then we went almost right back to normal, right? We kind of hit a reset button and kind of started over from scratch again. It kind of feels like walking all over again or riding a bike, right? It's like I knew how to do this before, but I haven't done it in so long. So I'm trying to figure out how to get my bearings. And I think that's the case for, you know, leadership, for families, for students, for teachers, for our team. We're all just trying to reconnect with what we knew before, but understanding that it looks a lot different. So we're just figuring out how to navigate this space together.
Well, Misti, I've realized we have yet to introduce you to our listeners. So let's go ahead and do that before we dive into our conversation further. So we'd love for you to share your background, just a little bit more of who you are, your role at Uplift, and why you do this work. Why do you do what you do?
Okay, well, thanks again for having me. Again, my first podcast, and I just am over here just super giddy. But yeah, I've been with Uplift for a little over 10 years, and my current role is a college and career counselor, and I am at Uplift Infinity High School. And so a little about me, I grew up here in Dallas. So I went to Seagull High School, and I'm an alum of UT Arlington. And so my career in education started back in 2008. I was a middle school math teacher, and I never, ever in a million years thought I would ever work in education. So here I go. I'm a middle school math teacher at Uplift Atlas, aka Peak. And so I taught a few years, loved it. I always loved math and had an affinity for it. So I taught math for a couple of years, and then just really loved what I was doing, really loved the impact that the work was having on me, the impact on students and families, and just, you know, really thriving in that environment. And I became a couple years later a master teacher and an exemplar teacher, and having the ability to not only work with students and support them, but being able to have an opportunity to help bring teachers along as well and help them really improve in their craft. From there, an instructional coach. And then for 2 years, I was an instructional dean for Uplift Atlas, aka Peak High School. And so just incredible things were taking place at the time. And I just love the work. I love to see all the different positive outcomes that were taking place. I love the community we were fostering and nurturing. And, I was falling in love with education, clearly. And my desire, though, was really being I was curious to spend some time like abroad and really connecting with different cultures. That just kind of came through some different conversations. And I realized that, maybe the work that I'm doing here, I could expand and reach, even broader community. So I spent some time working in Haiti, training and developing teachers and school leaders and helping develop curriculum and providing resources to schools that were in need. And then after that, I really had the international bug. And so I spent a couple of years in Morocco, Casablanca, Morocco, teaching math and also mentoring middle school and high school teachers at an international American school. I came back to the States, left education for a little bit as I was really trying to find my footing and just kind of, settle back into American culture. I spent a couple years at a leadership advisory and consulting firm, but I was really missing, I was missing education. I was missing the work. I was missing like truly connecting to my true passion. And so I was missing working with high school students. It's just, you can be purposeful in a lot of spaces, but I missed my element, which is high school students. And so I wanted to come back to Uplift. Uplift always felt like a community, a family. And I always enjoyed really being able to make a difference and kind of like blaze your own trail. Uplift is good for that and really being able to uniquely operate in a space to make a true difference. And so when I wanted to come back to Uplift, I connected with one of our former leaders who was a good friend of mine. And she was just saying like there was a space for me in RTC. And she was like, your skill set would really lend itself well to RTCCs. And again, I always wanted to know what it looked like and being able to serve in this role. The opportunity was there. I can turn it down. And so, I came back in 2017 and have been at Uplift Infinity ever since in this capacity as a college and career counselor. And I've loved the work. I do what I do because I like helping students realize their potential. And I find, a great deal of reward connecting them to their potential and their futures and helping them see themselves in a different light and helping them find their unique footing in the world. And I feel like RTCC is the best place to do that in Uplift. Don't get me wrong. Teaching is always my passion. Coaching teachers is always great, but there's a special place that RTCC exists in. And it's really in the trenches with students and really helping them see themselves fully and helping them get to where they need to be.
So in like, the next question, like on top of that, in specific to what you do now, how would you describe a typical week or a day? Or if I was in front of you going through the road to college and career process, what is your approach to breaking some of that barrier of like, I'm this person, have this title, I am this, going to help you support you with this process, but then really getting into the nitty gritty of the college and career apps and scholarships? Like, what is your typical approach and how does your week to week look?
So I can't speak for other RTCC offices and teams, but what I can say about our team is just like, we do a little bit of everything in RTCC at Infinity, and, no 2 days are the same. And, if I may start just by saying like, our office is a one-stop shop for everything. And part of what I was alluding to earlier is like that allure of working RTCC until you get into it and really understand, you really can't, connect the dots. But I love our office just because, students just every single day, like big picture, they feel comfortable showing up as themselves. And, they come in for everything. So, something simple like can we use your microwave? Can we grab a quick snack? Can we get a water bottle? Can we borrow a calculator? Or things that are even more high stakes, right? Like prepping for an interview for an internship, or getting ready for a college admissions interview, or, coaching them through a difficult conversation they're getting ready to have with their parents about a school they want to apply to, or, an interest that they might have, a major they want to explore, and then weighing pros and cons of a particular college. We get all of this every single day at any given time. And sometimes it's just a matter of them just coming and sitting in the office, right? And just, how can we help bolster, right, their confidence and help them recognize how awesome they are, or to, recognize and see their skills and gifts. I just think that more than anything, we've created an environment and that helps, scholars feel safe, and they trust us. And, if that exists at the core, every single thing after that will follow. And so our office, I feel like it's like a revolving door of just, here they come, right? So what do you need today? What do you need right now? What do you need? You came in this morning, but now you're back this afternoon. How can we help you? And we're just there to serve and support. I guess, in a nutshell, we support with every single aspect of, the college application process. Additionally, if they are pursuing an alternate path, such as military or certification programs, or if they're going direct to workforce, our job is to be there and help guide them, help them get to their outcomes in a manageable way, and create, manageable steps for them, and tangible steps for them to get to where they need to be. Whether it's helping them identify a best fit school or program, to literally walking through, last week, our scholars created their Common App and Apply Texas profiles. And, even something that's just like literally sitting in the space with them and walking them through every single field, from what is your first name? What is your last name? What is your birthday? How many students are in your graduating class? Like, we get down to the most, minuscule thing, right? But it's every single aspect, from something so small as filling in a field to hitting submit on their first application and celebrating with them, right? It's so many different things that work at any given time. And so it's kind of hard to put it into words quantitatively, but like, just to qualify it, it's every single thing. Financial aid awareness, doing workshops with kids. So like, it's hard to describe a week because every single thing happens in a week, but it's every single aspect that you can imagine as it relates from start to finish, down to sitting next to a scholar on a computer and helping them fill out every single field, to having a high level conversation about, who they are, and helping them identify their interests and such. So it's all of it any given day. I get to work super early, and I organize my desk, and I take a moment to like decompress and to, set myself up for the day, and just be ready for lots of interrupted time in my office, but appreciating the interruption. I think that's the thing. Like, there are things on my to-do list every day, whether it's all the administrative tasks of like Naviance and the paperwork, and, literally submitting fee waivers, submitting, recommendation letters, working on our recommendation letters, editing an essay, like all those things that require me to be in a zone, but understanding that those interruptions are valuable when the scholars come in and they need things in the moment. Just because, again, when you create a safe space, they're going to want to be a part of it, and they're going to want to come down, and they're going to need lots of things. And so I do my best to prioritize their needs. And when they want to come face to face and talk about all the things, I try to do my best to make space and time for that. And I can always get to the other things, but I love when we get FaceTime. So that's my day to day, like a lot of FaceTime, a lot of conversations, a lot of light bulbs, a lot of glimmers in eyes, and understanding how to find that balance, but just knowing that every day is bringing something different and something special that's helping kids get one step closer to whatever their desired outcomes are.
That's a lot.
No. But it is. It's like, I'm like, I don't even know, where do I even start? What do I even say? But
yeah. No. I mean, that's real though. I think your intention intentionality behind just at that piece, I'm telling you, and I'm gonna stop asking. 'Cause I feel like Robert gets to talk to you, and he knows all these things about all the campus people from the family engagement work, and so I'm just learning. But I feel it's so important to be prepared for yourself and your day, and even arranging your desk and showing up early. That's things. Those are things that are small, subtle ways that you show up, but it means probably so much in the grand scheme of just being ready and being there to answer questions. I think we just take for granted some of those things, like getting a good amount of sleep and, making sure I'm eating healthy and drinking enough water and making sure my lessons are prepared or my whatever you're doing in that day is ready. My desk is organized. Like that is very important in the grand scheme of like showing up for the student. So that was my last little 2 cents, Robert. I'm sorry. I know you want to jump in too.
That's good. No, I'm glad you acknowledged that, because my comment of saying that's a lot was purposeful in the way of going to what, Camille, you were just saying, is that there's a lot for scholars to go through this process. It's complicated. It can be confusing. There's a lot of moving parts. There are different deadlines for everything. There's a lot to keep up with. And so when you think about from your perspective as a counselor, you're doing that for everyone. And so like really trying to keep up with each pathway and like what each individual needs are. And that's a lot to keep up with for our scholars. Not to say that it's burdensome, because what you just shared gives insight to your heart and your compassion and why you do what you do, because we need people like you in these roles, because if not, then it'd be really easy for someone in your position to like come in late and be on edge. And when they are interrupted, they're not being a positive response to that interruption, especially when we're dealing with life-changing decisions that scholars are making. Like the decisions that they're making are one of the first big adult decisions that they're having to make for their lives. And they're 17, 18, 19 years old. And that could potentially change the trajectory of their life. Like that is huge. And that responsibility is not light for us and for you in being part of that process with them and their families. So I just want to say thank you for sharing that insight, because I think that also gives a glimpse into just the teams that we have on our campus sites and the thoughtfulness that they're providing, the services that goes into it. And it's not just you showing up for a job. It's like you showing up because you understand the life that is happening and the life that is changing in the lives of our scholars and their families. So thank you for sharing that, because it gives, I think, a pretty good insight to your approach to the work. So in your role, let's just say you were able to like pull away the noise, pull away all the different jumps and hoops and everything that scholars have to go through. If you could just like clear away, like clear headspace for scholars in their senior year, maybe their junior year, what would you want them to know about this transition? Like no matter what kind of pathway they're approaching or desiring, or like, as you said, those desired outcomes they have for their own lives, regardless of that, what is something that like, if you could instill in every scholar on what to keep priority as they're going through this, what would that be?
I think I would say, no matter what, to really invest in themselves and understand what it means to be invested in yourself. It's like knowing who you are, really finding a way to have connected to what your interests are. What is it that you need? What is it that you truly need? What is it that you truly want? And what is it that you're truly interested in? Figuring out what those things are, and no matter what, persisting at getting to that spot, to that place, to finding the right fit by any means necessary. Like don't settle, right? Don't take no for an answer. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. My goodness. Ask questions, talk to people, explore, navigate, and just be comfortable. I guess learning how to exist in a space of discomfort and just figuring out that this is a journey, right? And like, but again, keeping at the center what is it that you are looking for, and understanding that there's going to be a lot of different things that take place in order for you to get there. But by all means necessary, like figure out how to get there. And like, I feel like, our essential purpose as an RTCC team is to help give them the resources and empower them to be able to, no matter what, end up at that particular outcome for whatever it is for them. But yeah, take care of yourself, figure out what it is that you want and need, and get there.
That's solid. Yeah, I love it. I think about, because at the end of the day, that's what you have, right? Is your passion, your values, who you are, and you living that out to the fullest. And I feel like that's such great advice, because sometimes I think we can be bound by a choice that would be most likely promising for a high salary or job security, which there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes there may be scholars who choose that because of that only reason, but it may go in direct conflict with their values or who they are. And then you spend so much time and money and earning a credential only to find out that you really don't like it at all. And so
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
then it's like starting over. Right. So I love that piece of what you just shared. And it can probably feel, even with that, it's like, even as I hear that, I was like, man, if I was a 17-year-old and my counselor said,
oh my
hey,
gosh, yes.
I wouldn't even know where to start, because it would change that kind of expectation that I think we have with that process of you got to make a decision that's going to make you money, which obviously that's important. But it can also, we can feel like as though those options are limited, and not feel as though, or think or know that what we're passionate about or what our values are aligned to many careers and many types of jobs out in the world.
Like, I know I like, I think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish that I understood the value in recognizing whatever my true north was at the time, right? Or at least a version of what that was at the time, and just persisting toward that and pursuing it, at all costs. So like, I wish I had that centeredness. And so I just think it's so important, because again, it's different for everybody, and it's gonna, but it's just, that's what's gonna be fulfilling for you. And so like, we just gotta figure out a way to remove everything that prevents our scholars from asking the right questions, from having those conversations, from just understanding even how to embark upon that journey to figuring that out. And so that they can, connect to it, and then realize that that's central to their core, that's who they are, and that is going to be something that is kind of like a catalyst to spur them along, so that we can really then do our best to bring them to that space, because it's got to start with them recognizing that in themselves.
This will be my last follow-up question to that, is when you think about the RTCC programs that we have throughout the year, like some of those big events that we all come together for, or maybe things on campus that your team facilitates, what are maybe like those one or two type of programs or campus activities that you want scholars and families to prioritize as they're making decisions, as they're exploring, that you're like, hey, take advantage of this opportunity, and here's why? What would those be?
So I would say, just, I'll start with, like, I guess the big picture is, take advantage of whenever there's a, I don't know, open house, back to school night, wherever there's a chance to plug in and really get connected, and to meet the people that are instrumental in helping influence your scholar, or they're the ones that are spending the 7:30 to 4 time with them. I'd say, if at all possible, be a part of those experiences, because when you start to build relationships, again, that's the way that you get to establishing trust. And once you have trust, there's nothing that you cannot accomplish. And so, and then more specifically, I would say RTCC, when we have like our financial aid awareness, or our senior year roadmap or senior year overview nights. Like, be a part of those just so you can get some of those questions answered. Just there's nothing worse than the unknown or not really understanding what is it going to take or how am I going to be a part of this. So like whenever those workshops are offered, be a part of that experience so that you can gain a little bit more context, which will then better inform what it is that you need to do and how you fit into the big picture of really supporting your scholar and helping them reach whatever the goals are.
Misty, you're giving me all this advice. I'm like, where were you at when I was in high school? It's just every time I talk to one of the counselors at Uplift, I'm just like, man, I wish I had teachers and I had mentors, but it wasn't in my school day. I think there's just something special about, going to school all day, pushing through, and then having to go to an after school program to get extra, to get poured into. Like I didn't get poured into until I left school.
Right.
And it wasn't that school wasn't that, but it was just like, go to school, do your work and go home or go, wherever your next step is. And so the fact that we implement it in the school day and you're able to see them every day, it's awesome.
So, Misty, I think we've started to ask this question with all of our guests. So this would be our last question for you to wrap up. If you could go back and talk to your junior, senior self, whether 16, 17 years old, what would you tell them that you didn't know then, but you know now, that you think would make a difference for your previous self?
Ooh. I think it just goes back to just really recognizing that my junior and senior self, I was worth it. And to take the time to invest in me, identify what it is. I think I mentioned this earlier, identify what it is that I'm truly passionate about. What is it that I really need? And put the time in, invest, do the research, and take those risks, get out of my comfort zone to like just kind of seek out whatever it is that I know that is going to propel me along my journey and really help me connect to purpose and passion. And Camille mentioned this too, like, get guidance, have a mentor. I was at the top of my class. And I just remember my counselors in the ISD at the time. I just remember seeing them on smoke breaks outside during lunch, and they just never connected. They just were there to do what they had to do from 8 to 4 and they were gone. And so I just wish I had someone back then to really teach me to like, you matter. And so do the research, put the time in to seek out exactly what it is that you need to really start the journey off and continue the journey, I would say, in a way that really helps you satisfy your purpose.
Hey, thanks for listening to today's show. You may find the information we discussed on the description page of this episode. If you have a question or would like more information about what we discussed, please email us at rtcc@uplifteducation.org. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Eyes on the Road podcast wherever you listen so that you don't miss our next episode. And until then, be well and shine through.